Welcome to today's session from intake to hearing, connecting Litify, Salesforce, and Chronicle. We're so glad you're here. And if you are just joining us, since I saw a couple folks just pop in, it'd be great to hear from you where your firm is based out of, what your role is, as well as your name. And drop into the chat, any frustrations that you may be having right now with respect to the ERE to Salesforce sort of workflow. We want to hear what's most painful for you there. Because today we're going to show you how to operate Salesforce as a true system of record from intake through the hearing process. Just to kind of walk you through some of today's agenda. So to run things over here, this event is going to be 45 minutes, about 25 minutes or so of just like content, and then a demo followed by some Q&A. Feel free to drop questions in the chat as we go. We'll address them at the very end. And you'll receive a full replay within a week after this event. So there's no need to worry about anything if you miss a slide or something like that, or you want to send this over to somebody on your team after today. And something to note is that, after this session, you're going to leave with a clear understanding of how Chronicle streams SSA ERE data directly into Salesforce and Litify. You're going to get a live look at which Salesforce objects update automatically, as well as examples of automations firms are running today using Chronicle data, and details about just in general the availability of this feature. As a quick introduction from me, I'm Will. I focus on building education, partnerships, and collaborations that help disability practices adopt better tools and stronger operational standards. My work centers on bringing together the people and technology that are pushing the disability field forward and making sure that firms have clear, practical paths to implement what actually works. And I'll be moderating today's session, and I'll also introduce Nikhil, who is going to be the founder of Chronicle. Chronicle is the platform helping Social Security disability firms automate case tracking, manage ERE access, and streamline hearing prep. He has helped many attorneys and advocates across the country simplify complex workflows in the disability space, and Chronicle now monitors over 100,000 cases, as well as 3.7 million disability documents. Nikhil, I'd love for you to take us away in terms of just covering why did we build this integration?
Yeah, for sure. So, as Chronicle, we really focus on your ERE data, and that is a live stream of everything that's going on with your case, whether it's the status you document. So it's a really valuable data feed, but lives outside of your case management system at this point. Obviously, a lot of folks use different case management systems, whether it's Litify, Prevail, Clio, Filevine, all of those. And so we really, you know, don't want firms having to do manual data entry tasks. The way things usually work right now is things change in the ERE, and if you're using Chronicle, you have to manually enter that information back into your case management system since it's your system of record and how you track things. Um, Obviously, this is very tedious. It takes hours of work. And it means that anything that could happen instantaneously when that data comes in is gated by the manual data entry process, therefore slowing down the teams and making cases take longer. So we really wanted to build something that reduces that friction, automatically pushes data into Salesforce and Litify, so that way your team is not doing this entry work, saving hours of time, and you can start building automations off of that. And that's where this gets really powerful is when you have that live data stream into your case management system, you can start automating task creation, client communication, and all those other great features your case management system usually has out of the box.
Awesome. So before we just jump into the demo, it'd be great to hear from folks if you can share what SSA data currently causes you potentially the most friction in your Salesforce or Litify workflows today. And while you answer that, we're going to start getting ready for Nikhil to screen share and show how everything works on that end.
For sure. Let's see, where's the share button?
And maybe zoom in once or twice more, Nikhil.
All right. Ready when you are.
Yeah, I think we can just go ahead and just hop into the demo section, and then if some folks are going to share some of the things that they're struggling with in terms of their workflows, they can drop that in the chat, and we'll work that into the demo as well.
Awesome. So for this demo, I'll start off by showing you guys what is currently available in the integration in terms of the data transfer and how it flows into Litify or Salesforce. And then afterwards, I'll show a little bit about the setup process. That way you guys can understand what are the capabilities and features and ways to get this going if you do choose to start this integration. So most of you are probably familiar with the Chronicle dashboard right now. There's a lot of great information. For example, this is a initial level case that's closed out. I have it set up where I have the AOD, the DLI, the statuses, the office, all of that. And then going down, I have the full list of documents all in Chronicle. The crux right now is for a lot of folks, this doesn't automatically push into their case management system. So here I have a Salesforce instance in case it's a little unclear. So Litify is built on top of Salesforce. It's a package that kind of skins Salesforce to do legal work and legal processes. So the Chronicle package is agnostic between Salesforce or Litify. You can use it with either, and I'll kind of show you in the back half how that is set up. But as you can see here now, all of my Chronicle clients are being automatically loaded into a custom object in Litify called Chronicle Clients in the Chronicle app. So you can see all my clients here. I can see all their report data, status data, so what level they're at, what the status of case is, and I can actually click in and find these clients. So for example, if I have Logan Gutierrez, I can go in and I can search Logan. So I have my contact Logan. So this might be your case or account or party in Litify. Um, and from there, I have all my details. This is kind of my internal representation of Logan. And I now have a link to the Chronicle client. So when I click that Chronicle client, I can now see all that ERE information that used to live in Chronicle in Litify. So I can see here, that same AOD, that DLI, all of the stats information, the office, the decisions, it's all here and available. And then I can also see all the documents. So rather than having to jump back into Chronicle, I can see the full list of documents here. If there were any CEs, they would also show up, and so on. So it's really reflecting everything that's in Chronicle inside of Litify. So one, that's super helpful for your team, right? They don't have to jump in between both places. Second, I can actually go in and view these documents. We have links to every document. So if I want to see this, I can jump in and view it. It will open up Chronicle right to that document. So it's available right there. Um, Super helpful to reduce that kind of back and forth time. Additionally, we also do our best to kind of enable all the same features that you could use to interact with the ERE in the plugin, in the integration. So you can still upload to the ERE out of package. So, just as you would have done here, clicking upload, I can actually upload right out of the Salesforce package. I can also update the full SSN. You're familiar probably with the process of entering the SSN into Chronicle. You can also do it out of here, so that way your team doesn't have to jump back and forth. And you can also request
I'm
an
watching
ERE
this
refresh.
Chronicle case managed it.
Sorry about that. So you can also request a ERE refresh. So that way you can always make sure it has the latest documents. So super helpful here in terms of things syncing over from Chronicle into Salesforce. So you're not doing manual data entry. It's all here. What a lot of firms I see do is they will actually find a way to get this view right onto their contact case or account view. So that way they don't have to jump back and forth even within Salesforce. They can have just view it right out of the contact. So if you have a Salesforce admin, definitely talk to them once you set the integration about how to get the Chronicle data right here on the contact object or the party object if you're using Litify. The other second powerful part of this is the automations, right? Now that you have, actually, sorry, before I go to automations, I just want to quickly point out, we do, as I mentioned, have the documents, but we also have events. So if I quickly go to all events and go into here, I'll be able to see we actually push in for this Chronicle client. So Murphy here, has a hearing, it will show up under the Chronicle events section. So that way I'm able to actually see the hearings and CEs also in Chronicle, sorry, in Litify. And we'll also have, info requests and medical requests coming soon. So those will be additional information that will be passed in and that we can build automations on top of it. Just to give you a sense of the automation possibility, here I have a link back Chronicle client. It's a very simple flow, but pretty much you can imagine whenever a new Chronicle object gets created, so a Chronicle client, a Chronicle event, you can actually have this create an automation where something gets triggered and I update something else or I create a task. So if you're familiar with flows, that would be helpful.
And just so that folks that might be on smaller devices might be able to check this out. Nikhil, can you zoom in a little bit here on the workflow and just run through what's happening?
Yeah, for sure. So right now, this is a very simple flow of whenever a Chronicle client is created, it's going to, one, make sure that, we have matched it to someone, and then it will automatically update the contact with information from that Chronicle client. So it's a very simple flow. It's just, that manual data entry process, putting stuff back into the contact so I can, use that data in the actual contact object. I know this may be a lot of jargon right now. It's very Salesforce specific, but it's pretty much just moving data around within Salesforce so that way you can trigger tap automations off of the creation and update of Chronicle clients and events and objects.
Awesome.
Awesome. Any questions before I go to just the setup and what it actually looks like on a implementation standpoint?
One question from Michael in the chat was if ALJ approval percentages can also get pushed over to Litify.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's something we're actually actively working on about adding. So we'll be in the future package update with those additional objects I was mentioning. Cool. So one of the great benefits of the Chronicle package is how we actually match to your objects. Other packages, there's one other package that currently pushes data from the ERE into Litify. However, it requires still manual work to actually match to the client. The great thing about the Chronicle setup is we actually will automatically match any object you want using last name and last four of SSN. So as long as your target object, whether it's an account party, a case, a matter, has that last name and last four SSN on it, we can automatically find and match to that object. The way it actually works is in two steps. First, you have to set up the integration package. We actually have a great very thorough setup document that has, all the steps you need to actually install the package. Once you've installed the package, you'll have this app in Salesforce. You'll be able to go to the Chronicle admin page and you can actually set up a matching rule. The mapping rule lets you target, as I mentioned, any object, and then you can choose what fields have the last name and last four SSN, and that will auto match to every single contact that has a match based on the Chronicle data. So there's no, manual process there. It automatically matches. And if you have any unmatches, we do have an unmatched list that lets you go and kind of figure out, what is wrong and manually update that. So it's fairly seamless. Once you get set up, we walk you through the process and we kind of white glove help you set it up. And then, from there might be one, set of matches you have to do manually, but after that, it should go automatically.
In your testing, how long did that setup take?
It takes about a day or two. The key thing is your Salesforce admin going through the steps of setting up the package. But after that, the second day often is just fixing any issues with matching. And then after that, it's off to the races.
Awesome. Anything else that you wanted to showcase before we just kind of take a step back and summarize how this integration works, as well as just what fields are getting updated in Salesforce?
No. Well, I guess just the thing to know also is within Chronicle, once you've set up the integration, you are able to monitor it. We do have a sync history on every client here that will show you the last time it's synced and to which integration. So that way you know, is this working or not? Is there any issues? And then additionally, under the settings, we will also have a page where you can also monitor and make sure your integration is active and connected here. And you can always test the connection if there's any issues.
If there are any issues, what sort of notification or way would the firm know that there is an issue?
Yeah, right now it's mainly manual monitoring. On each contact, we have a section down here called, you know, system information. You can see that if there's any matching issues for that Chronicle client, that's the best way to see if there's any issues, or we have the Chronicle logs, which also show any system issues.
Great. Excellent. Well, in that case, I'm going to take back over on the screen share and then let you wrap up on some of the overviews of just like how this integration works and what some of the data things that you just shared entail in terms of that. Can you see my screen, Nikhil?
Yes.
Awesome.
Cool. So, kind of just to wrap that up, how the integration works. First, you have to connect. As I mentioned, we have a create onboarding document and it comes in video form to set up the integration. The best way to actually get that process started, though, is reach out to the support team. We like to kind of handhold people through this. So we'll send you a copy and have a quick call to make sure that you are ready to go and understand how to complete the process. Once that integration is set up, we'll run a backfill for you. Chronicle will automatically match the ERE clients to Litify party records or whatever object you are using. As I mentioned, the initial one usually requires a little bit of manual matching, just if there's any issues with last name or last four of SSN. And from there, the sync will happen every 15 minutes. Data will flow automatically from Chronicle as it updates into your Litify Salesforce instance. You can monitor how that's going, both in Chronicle and within Litify. And then from there, you're able to start building flows and automations in Salesforce to automate things like task creation, client communications, or whatever your heart desires on automation. Um, and just to kind of really make clear the data that is automatically syncing in, everything from case status goes in. So, whether it's status of case, the level, the decisions. We also create objects for any events. So those are hearings and CEs automatically create Chronicle events. We also have information requests. Those will be the questionnaires that are being sent out by the SSA. We'll create a separate object. Same for medical providers, what facilities the SSA has reached up to. Reach out to, and then document metadata there where we have, all the list of documents that have been provided from the ERE will also show up in Salesforce.
So curious from folks, I know we have a couple questions that we'll tackle in the Q&A, but real quick, where would real-time ERE data potentially help your team most? A, tracking info request deadlines, B, scheduling around CE appointments, C, knowing the moment decision drops, or just D, triggering workflows automatically. And while we wait for some responses in the chat on that, we're going to just summarize the overall availability of this feature, and then we'll switch over to a Q&A section. I know I've got a question from Will as well as from Michael to tackle in just a little bit. It looks like mostly the workflow automation is highly appealing for folks, and also knowing when a decision drops is also coming up as well. So C and D are the predominant answers to this respective poll question. And Nikhil, you want to just go over, some of the high level on this integration's availability today, and then we can wrap up with some Q&A and potentially also demo some other things for folks, as that's one of the questions that will come up.
Yeah, for sure. So as I mentioned, the best way to get started is just reach out to the support team. Say you want to set up a Salesforce Litify integration. It's available today. We have several firms already using it and actually having pretty good results and making use of the data flow and have found different ways to kind of automate off of it. And it's very easy to set both in a sandbox or production environment.
Excellent. We have a couple questions coming in. So the first one that I'm going to tackle is from Michael as well, which is, will Chronicle be able to read from our Litify Matter teams and auto-claim clients?
Great question. So just to be kind of help folks understand, in every case management system, usually you assign a case to an owner, so that way they kind of can keep track of that case. You can do the same thing in Chronicle, where you can follow a case and get notifications. Right now, there is not what Michael's asking is, can you essentially bridge the gap so we automatically take whoever's the owner in Litify and pop that into Chronicle? At this time, we don't actually have that ability, but it is on our roadmap for later this year to allow for auto claiming via Litify.
Awesome. The next question I have from Will, which may require you to take over on screen share again, Nikhil, is if you can just walk through a couple other automations that are set up or just examples.
Yeah,
great.
for sure. Let me share again. Alrighty. So hopefully this is not too technical for folks, but for the Salesforce admins, this will hopefully be enlightening. So
Same
you
thing,
may
Nikhil.
know,
Can you zoom in a little bit for folks?
yes. Um, so this is the Salesforce Flow system. I might create a new flow, and I might take the example of a CE getting created and creating a task for my team. So it's going to be a triggered automation, record triggered. So in Salesforce parlance, this means whenever a record and object gets created, I want to do something about that. So I'm going to just search up Chronicle event. Whenever it's created or updated, I'm going to say the condition will be the type event category is CE. Oh, CE. I'd say that is good. Then we're going to create a step, which is, oh, sorry, this is not great and is zoomed in. We're going to create a record. We're going to say create team task. And then we're going to say we're going to create a task event. Sorry, let's see. Manually task. We're going to create a task, and we're going to say the subject will be wages. We just set this call. Nope. Sorry, this is where I make things difficult sometimes. Where is the ability to just set this to a random, let's say, new resource? Constant. It's going to be, sorry, it's going to be constant, which is call. Data type is text, and the value is going to be call the client. Done. And then I'm going to say that is good. So this was a very basic example, but pretty much now, whenever a Chronicle event gets created for a CE, it's going to create a task for my team to call the client. This is basic, but you could imagine, if you have a marketing automation system or the ability to email out Salesforce, you could have it automatically email the client. And rather than, using my call the client subject, you could do whatever you want there. Or you could launch more complex workflows, such as, check if this thing is true on the matter, update it there, and then do this other thing.
Awesome. And Will, if there's a particular idea that you have in mind, feel free to follow up in the chat and we can certainly explore that. Marcy had a question of curiosity around with this automatic integration, does it include time entries? Meaning if a decision is being automatically added, can you have it assigned a time entry?
Unfortunately, I don't believe so at this point on it, like not out of the box. So for time entries, that usually goes to your case management system, and you may be able to build a workflow that does that for you. And that's kind of the powerful part of Litify is you can automate, build any flow you want quite easily, but we won't do it out of the box.
Got it. And then Christy has a question. If the matter can't be auto-claimed and if email notifications have to be sent, is there a way the notifications sent to the person who, for notifications to be sent to the person who claims the case? They're currently receiving an email for every case that they have, even after the other case managers have claimed a file as their own. And if it's not a file that's been claimed yet, can they possibly be sent to each case manager until it is claimed? Are those currently available as options?
Great question. I'm not quite tracking exactly the flow you have in mind, but I will say we are launching later this quarter a overhaul to the notification system that will allow for auto claiming. So it won't require you to go one by one. It will let you kind of set various parameters as stage or alphabetical, anything like that. And that way, if someone hasn't claimed it yet, the auto claim system could catch them.
Got it. And
Hopefully that
then
answers your question, Christine. Feel free to reach out over email if needed.
awesome. And then another question is, can Chronicle accurately identify and separate records or data for different providers who are part of the same health network?
Um, it really depends what use case you are thinking about. Um, but not that you know, unclear right now. I think I need a little bit more context on the question of what you mean by separate record and where you want those records separated. What we do today is we have the document list, and so every time a document is uploaded, it does come with the source. But I have heard that the SSA sometimes merges a couple different, sources into one document, and that can make it a little tough. And we are not separating that today.
Got it. And I know you've gone over it a couple of times, but just to make sure it's clear for folks, how does the client matching work with respect to this integration?
Yeah, for sure. So the key way that Chronicle matches clients and identifies clients is last name and last four of SSN. So as long as your object in Litify or Salesforce has those two fields, last four of SSN and last name, we're able to match against that.
And some folks might be thinking to themselves, their Salesforce schemas really highly or heavily customized. How have you been working with those cases in the testing periods and whatnot before this launch?
Yeah, this is kind of why we like to do a white glove service with these integrations. So when we do initial calls, we'll try to understand your Salesforce schema and give our best recommendation. Lucky for the Salesforce admins out there, I used to be a RevOps director in a past life, so I'm very familiar with Salesforce schemas and kind of how to work around them. So even if we aren't able to use our out-of-the-box matching system, there should be a way to do so using Salesforce Flows to actually do the matching custom to your schema.
And in general, for the data syncing into Salesforce, I know you mentioned, every 15 minutes earlier, but then also, Chronicle's checking on a regular basis. So what is the frequency in terms of the data sync directly into the Salesforce side of things?
Yeah, so it will automatically go in every 15 minutes. And as you know, in Chronicle, we check the ERE every 2 hours. So at worst case, it'll be 2 hours and 15 minutes delayed. But for most cases, it will be within 15 minutes.
Will has a question. He's noting that Litify requires a minimum of 10 platform licenses, which doesn't work for smaller firms. So are there any plans to extend the data connecting or integrations with the Clio platform?
Yeah, great question, Will. Yes, long story short, we are on a full list of integrations to build out. We'll have Followvine coming out in the next couple of weeks, and then Clio is the next one we will be building out right after that. I was actually just reviewing the API documents earlier today.
Excellent. And then Michael had a question. Do we have a way to ignore the matching issues that often get affiliated with those with suffixes? For example, like your juniors or seniors or the thirds, which cause the system to not match the last four with the ERE?
Unfortunately not. Chronicle takes a very cautious approach to matching, and we want to make sure that we don't create false matches as that can trigger, unexpected consequences. So what I would suggest then is kind of building your own flow as we've shown here, where you can actually override the matching or do additional matching. For example, removing those fields and doing a search. So happy to talk, Miles, if you want to discuss how a flow could be designed to accomplish that.
Awesome. And I know that, whenever folks are connecting systems, a natural question that comes up is our data secure? Can you just remind folks on, Chronicle's approach to that?
Yeah, so the thing to always remember is Chronicle is SOC 2 Type 2 certified. So we go under a compliance framework set by a third party. That means we're audited on a yearly basis and we follow these policies quite tightly. Um, and so through this integration, we're holding ourselves to the same standard to make sure that data is secure and encrypted between the two. It is ultimately on the firm to make sure their own case management system is secure. So as long as you guys are following best practices on your side, everything should be good.
Generally speaking, if it wasn't already gone over, what is the pricing for this integration?
Yeah, so there right now there's no additional cost as long as you're on the Pro plan, which is $14 per case. You will be able to integrate with your case management system, such as Litify.
Excellent. And if folks have any final questions, feel free to drop them into the chat. Otherwise, thank you all for joining us today. I'd love if folks can use the link in the chat for sharing some feedback about thoughts around this event. We've been putting together more and more of these events. And so the feedback that folks are sharing here is super helpful for us to know what to prioritize, whether it's sharing new integrations we're building or the virtual panels that we've been putting together. And if you submit your feedback, you'll also get a panel recap from just a couple weeks ago of a feature that we had with the folks over at DL Marketing and Super Insight. So there was a great discussion across just growing a disability firm, what's working, what's not, and what's next in terms of 2026. Our next event is going to be in 2 weeks. We are excited to also share the release of one-click medical chronologies through Super Insight in case you've ever used their platform just to improve the workflow there on that end. So we're going to be bringing back the Super Insight team there. If you want to RSVP for that event, it is in the feedback form as well at the bottom. Other than that, though, I'm going to just double check the chat. I think we've covered everything for everybody. So other than that, thanks so much for everybody tuning in today. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact us at support@chroniclelegal.com. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.